Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We watch WWE Smackdown every Friday night and give a recap after the bell. Got a little unique episode today as we're going on Monday night instead. Head to head up against Raw. My name is John Zindel and this is Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, this is our first head-to-head matchup, isn't it? I'd like to see how this goes, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We had a fairly action-packed SmackDown to talk about, so don't bury the lead, John. What's our top story from the SmackDown from Friday, July 21st?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead on this channel. We most certainly never bury the lead, and as a result, we're going to go ahead and say this. The lead is the main event, a talking segment. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso finalized their match at SummerSlam with rules of engagement being tribal combat rules. Dom, what did you think about the tribal combat rules segment?
I don't know much about tribal combat, so this would be a first for me. I know it was fairly intense. No Jimmy, he's still kayfabe injured.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just Roman with Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa out there, Jay out there by himself, and they're doing a contract signing. And contract signings, they're usually not that exciting, are they?
No.
And then after a while, it became just trope like, yeah, you have a contract signing, someone's going to throw over the table.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's like the person who's losing at Monopoly just throws the board over. But they really made this dramatic. Like Roman is not only putting his title belt on the line, it seems, but then Jay is staring at Roman with that ceremonial necklace that he was wearing. And he just stares at him, and eventually Roman takes off the necklace and puts that on top of the title belt on the table. So it looks like head of the table is on the line here, not just the longest WWE title reign since Hulk Hogan in the 80s. So there's a lot on the line here. Is this too much to be on the line for a SummerSlam match? Is this too much too soon? Or is this the right amount of stipulations for whatever this is going to turn into in a little less than 2 weeks?
I think it's a good touch to add to the bloodline storyline, but it's so crazy that a belt that has been defended for over 1,000 days by the same guy needs extra incentive, because it just feels like the center of the pro wrestling universe right now is all on that belt. The other belts have really fallen by the wayside, and Seth Rollins has his participation trophy belt, but this is the big belt that everybody's focused on, around in different, companies too. This has been probably the biggest story. So
Sure.
I'd say it's interesting that they put that on the line in addition. But ultimately a pretty good segment because it's a bloodline and they're both way over. I mean, the crowd was going crazy for a contract signing, and usually the contract signings are like a little roll of the eye, so they can really get.
What did you think of some of the ceremonial stuff that they added in here? Roman and Jay walk around. At one point, Jay rips up the contract. He says he doesn't need a contract for a regular match. That's when he brings up the tribal combat thing. But then he and Roman, after Roman lays the belt on the table and then the tribal chief necklace, they walk around the table. They're on the hard camera side. They lock their right hands. Then they touch their foreheads to each other. Now, they don't kiss, but like some sort of, I don't know, tribal pact going on. Then as Roman turns to leave, Solo runs in and tries to jump on Jay and spike him. But Roman stops Solo from doing it. So now it's Roman who's showing a little bit of honor. And then, of course, Jay super kicks Solo out of the ring for that. And then Roman, Heyman, and Solo slowly retreat up the ramp. And it's just Jay in the ring. So what did you think of the the gesturing that they're trying to make this that it's almost primitive. It's like a primitive combat thing. But also Solo's reaction and Roman's reaction to Solo's reaction, and then the closing visual. And you can answer whichever one of those you thought was most interesting in whatever order. But that's what's on my mind. Those three things as I'm watching the end of it.
I think the best part is when Solo went to go give him whatever his thumb. What is
The
this
Samoan spike.
Oh yeah, Samoan spike. So when he goes to do the Samoan spike, and Roman holds him off, and then he gets super kicked, and Roman's like, "Come on, what are you doing?" Like suddenly Jay is the bad guy. Like, how dare you? Interrupt this issue here. Like, I tried to stop him, and you didn't sense it on anything else. But I guess they're going to add a stipulation because they said already that it's tribal combat. And when they said tribal combat, the crowd started to chant tribal combat.
Sure.
So it works because the crowd's chanting tribal combat. But I don't know what that means. Is it going to be in like a weird cage? Are they going to use like bamboo cage or something weird like that? Or is there something that their ancestors, I should say their ancestors, their parents did when they were younger that we don't know about? Somebody in the family. It's a big mystery.
It's a WWE thing too, isn't it? That people, and we've talked about foreigners in the WWE always getting some sort of less than first world treatment. So at the same time that obviously Roman and the Usos, they're born in the US. Their families have been here for a while. They're very wealthy. They're very accomplished. Roman goes on the Tonight Show, for crying out loud. And yet when they want to get into the wrestling ring, they're still trying to conjure up, primitive tribal stuff out on the remote islands. So there's a little bit of each of that, and it's kind of heritage, but I see that they're trying to bring heritage into it, that this is personal between Jay and Roman, deeply personal. It's not just a wrestling match between a champion and a contender. I don't want it to get into sort of ethnic tropes and that kind of thing. I don't want to see it go there. We don't need that. It's 2023.
Yes, I hope not. But Vince, the way, I mean, just looking at the Japanese workers, they're all silly and goofy as hell, and it's like something from Godzilla or something like that.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there a little bit, but I'm interested in seeing this. What has Jay done for you? We know Roman's people are saying he should be nominated for a primetime TV Emmy or something. If the WWE would ever let its wrestling products be known as TV shows. How's Jay been doing it for you? Jay seems, of all the characters, Jay seems almost the one who's most real life. We all know the hothead, don't we? We all know the hothead is trying to get his emotions under control, but at the same time, he's loyal as all heck. And, he's ready to go at a moment's notice. Like Jay to me seems like he could be, that's how a real person might act. Not every real person, but we kind of all know a guy like Jay, don't we? Well, we've been the guy like Jay.
Point. Jay is very, very relatable, and it's almost scary. Like his gimmick is too accurate. His gimmick is somebody that you've met like that a little bit before, and there is kind of like a screw loose in his head, but he doesn't feel like he's playing crazy. He feels like a little crazy. He seems like a little out there.
He's good at it. We'll leave it at that. Whatever he's doing, he's really good at it. It comes across on the screen, doesn't it?
Very authentic.
So we're looking forward to this SummerSlam match or not?
For sure.
For sure. Yeah, man.
He is I would say that Jay has been a better candidate than Cody Rhodes to take the belt from Roman. I think Cody was hot, then he came in and then he kind of won the Royal Rumble, and he's still kind of just the Nepo baby thing where he's like, my dad was here and I need to win the belt for my daddy. And like, there is a certain point like, okay, he seems like a bit of a spoiled brat. Like, my dad says I should win. Everybody loves my dad.
If the person to take the belt off Roman, just to close the lead here, if the person to take the belt off Roman is going to be someone who has actual heat with Roman Reigns, not contrived, I mean, it's Jey Uso, isn't it? If the WWE wants to go that route for the title change, who's got more real life in the ring that we've seen play out on TV and pay-per-views in house shows than Jey Uso, right?
They have a much better rivalry setup. Whereas before with Cody and Roman, it was like, well, I won the Royal Rumble, so I get my shot. And then it's like, okay. And that was the build.
It's like ramen noodles. It's like instant heat. Let's pour some boiling water on the Royal Rumble winner, and look at that. We have an instant storyline from a decade ago that we just invented.
Yeah. So, Dom, we don't bury the lead, and that was the lead. Let's move on to the rest of the show. Do you want to take us to the second match we want to talk about here in the follow?
Well, we haven't done a match yet, have we? So we did get 4 matches on this show, including a title match, a title that's not usually defended on SmackDown or Raw. We got one of those. Which of these matches, since we got 4 and they took up some pretty good amounts of time, did you think was the next biggest thing on the show?
Well, I've been stewing about this one.
Okay, stewing is good. It can be big even if you're kind of a little disappointed.
So I've been stewing about this one. We have a fatal 4-way matchup in the opener here. Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio Jr., Sheamus, LA Knight, to get the opportunity to get a number 1 contender shot at the U.S. champion, Austin Theory. So, fatal 4-way in the opener. Rey Mysterio goes over in a fatal 4-way match. And the crowd was pulling for our boy, L.A. Knight, but they didn't give him what they wanted.
No.
Because they don't like to always give they don't like to give the crowd what they want sometimes.
Nope.
Dom, what did you think of this match?
They gave him 19 minutes, so they didn't shortchange him in the in-ring work. Rey winds up winning a Hurricane Rana on Cameron Grimes. And then Rey does the neat thing where after he hits the Hurricane Rana, as the guy's legs are up in the air, he reaches behind and grabs him, goes right into kind of a sit-down roll-up. He gets the pin there. After all the opening video montages, this match took place pretty early. The bell started at 8:10 for us. The crowd seemed dead, like they were waiting for LA Knight to get more involved, and they only got brief spurts of it. The WWE has a problem with LA Knight right now. He's so over that when he's in a match, he becomes the focus of attention. And it becomes like hey, look over there, whenever anybody else is involved in it. And the crowd didn't seem to be watching this match. They seem to be watching LA Knight. That's not a good place for the WWE to be right now with LA Knight, because now he's a distraction in a match. We don't want him to be a distraction. He's a wonderful performer. What did you think overall vibe from this match?
That's an interesting take. That it does sort of make sense that they were kind of waiting for LA Knight to get the pin. But I will also say, I don't necessarily think that's the problem. I think this fatal 4-way match, we got to get rid of this thing. These have not been good matches. And they've done them a couple times. So instead of it being a triple threat where you have one guy on the outside and then it's 2-on-1, then you have 4 people. So then you have to have like 2 people on the outside laying around, 2 people in at the same time. They're all doing video game spots the whole time. So there's no flow. Like it doesn't even make any sense to people that get pinned because they're just randomly doing moves to each other.
Mhm.
So there's not like a really cohesive story. And I don't know if it's their attempt to do the style that AEW does sometimes with, really crazy high spots that keep going and going that are kind of, but it felt like the guys involved, specifically Sheamus and LA Knight, this isn't their wheelhouse to do video game moves.
No.
I think they both kind of will construct the match a little bit better. So I didn't think it was a good match. I'm never mad with Rey Mysterio winning,
Mhm.
but I wanted LA Knight. I don't know. So I think at the end of the day, I guess in conclusion, it's a sloppy match. It's cool Rey Mysterio won. I don't know what they're waiting on with LA Knight. Like I'm not so sure that Santos Escobar is even close to as over as LA Knight. Or, Rey Mysterio, God bless him, he's a legend, but is he gonna win the US title? I don't know. I actually wouldn't mind that actually, but
It wouldn't be bad, would he? It's going to be strange though. They're going to have two baby faces from the same stable, same faction, the LWO, facing off to see who's going to challenge Austin Theory for the U.S. title. Two things I noticed from this match: Sheamus at one point tries to mock the LA Knight fans with the point when he's in the corner, and the crowd is not. The crowd's not having it. They're not. Sheamus is not getting babyface pops here. And the second thing I
no.
noticed is last week when they did this first fatal four-way to determine the first entrant in that final matchup, Austin Theory was on commentary. It was poor. Tonight they had him come out and just sit in the chair. They did not give him a headset, did not give him a microphone. He was not on commentary. He was just sitting there to kind of get involved in the match towards the end.
I had that too. I said no Austin Theory on the mic because they did that in the last one, and you're right. This guy, he's like a 0 out of 10 for charisma, especially for a heel. Like just make fun of Cole. It's he's the punt. Just say something horrible about Cole. Pretty simple. Bailey did it, and she was all over it.
There you go. Do you
Bailey.
want to jump to that match now, or do we have more to say about this fatal four-way?
Well, LA Knight, I don't want them to hold off too long with LA Knight, and at some point he's not over anymore, and then everyone's looking around and being like, man, they really should have pulled the trigger on him, not waited till WrestleMania, and it's a little stale. But
the iron's hot. You don't want him to waste an opportunity. Like, give the guy a chance.
I know. So that's the fatal four-way match, and I led right into it, so maybe we can talk about it. We had Charlotte Flair versus Io Sky. Charlotte Flair goes over Io Sky, and Bailey is on the mic with Michael Cole. I should say she's in the announce booth doing what I think Austin Theory was supposed to do last week, but just didn't get the memo. So, what did you think about Charlotte Flair versus Io Sky?
Very slow developing match. I wrote down gymnastics exhibition early. Maybe they haven't worked with each other yet too much. By the second half of this match, maybe the last 5 minutes, so this match goes 14 minutes bell to bell. They gave him some time. Charlotte Flair winds up winning after a few reversals here, but it seemed like once they got familiar enough with each other, they started working fast. I'm always looking for the speed of the execution of moves and sequences, reversals, things like that. They started off slow, but then they got fast. Well, whenever people who are capable of fast work slow, I start scratching my like, are they just feeling each other out here because they haven't had a lot of ring time with each other?
Yeah.
This was a better match at the end than it was at the beginning. I do like some of the stuff that was happening.
It was a
Io
little
Sky blocks a figure eight with a roll up for a 2 count. Charlotte does a German suplex for a 2 count. The final sequence is Io Sky hitting a top turn Hurricane Rana for a 2 count. Charlotte reverses it right into a roll up for a 2 count. Io reverses it for a two count, but then they separate. And Charlotte, well, they're still both on their knees. I don't know what they call this move, but it's basically a kneeling DDT.
Hmm.
Face plant, skull plant, whatever you want to call it, some side of spike. Charlotte hits that, and then it's enough for the pinfall. By that time, Bayley is no longer at ringside. Um, let's do a little inside baseball here. This could have been a cheap heat thing, except it played out in the match. Bayley was legit injured at a house show a few days earlier.
Oh, okay.
Bad knee injury in some sort of fatal four-way. You'll never guess that a fatal four-way was a garbage match.
Right.
But Bayley sort of gets rolled into on her right knee up around the shin near the knee. So she comes out tonight in even baggier pants than she's usually wearing, like cargo pants. I'm gonna show my age here. It looked like MC Hammer came out to wrestle.
Okay.
But it was I imagine that right knee and right shin is either heavily taped or has a brace on it, and they wanted to hide it. So Bayley comes out wearing the very baggy cargo pants. She sits down at ringside, does the announcing. Her interference in the match is really just relegated to standing up, getting near the ring, and shouting encouragement to Io Sky. Then the video board shows Shotzi, and it gets spooky, and Bayley gets spooked and has to leave ringside, and basically just kind of walks to the back. So Bayley did nothing physical, did not take a bump, did not get involved physically, basically walked out, sat down, stood up, walked around, walked to the back. There, this is kind of a good news, bad news thing for me. It means that Bayley is probably not injured enough where she would miss SummerSlam if that's when they wanted to have Bayley Shotzi or soon after that. At the same time, they have to be very careful with her out at ringside. There's not a whole lot she can do, especially this SmackDown was, I think, 5 days out of the weekend house show where she was kind of rolled into.
That makes sense when you talk about all the motions. She wasn't really physical at all, and usually she would be. Maybe that's why they also have her sitting there on the mic. But then they, but unlike Austin Theory, who sat there not on the mic but next to the commentators, like I could just see Vince scolding Austin Theory and be like, "What are you doing out there? Damn it!" He's like, "You sit out there and you don't say anything." Okay, Vince. But yeah, so Bayley is allowed to talk to the announcers because she's good enough, but she's also kind of forced to due to injury. I did not know that. What did you think of the vignette on the screen with Shotzi and that whole thing?
It fits what they had done the previous week, where Shotzi is now at her breaking point. You know, she's kind of been bullied too much by these guys. So now she's just trying to get in their heads. Shotzi's never been a vanilla character anyway. She's supposed to be kind of weird and out there anyway.
Yeah,
So
she's got green hair and drives a tank and a bunch of tattoos.
yeah, right. So like this isn't. It's not that much of a stretch that she's now having almost a nervous breakdown here because she's been bullied and kind of on the wrong end of some of these confrontations. Um, it gave them an excuse to have Bayley be spooked and leave ringside,
Yeah.
which helped with this particular match because then it became Io versus Charlotte with no help for either one of them. It allowed them to have a good final 3, 4, 5 minutes or whatever it was, where they were working fast, working stiff, showing the best of each other. Charlotte goes over like she should because she's going to be in the title match at SummerSlam, which looks like a triple threat. Io still looks strong. And she's supposed to be just a notch below them anyway. This is her kind of entry in to see if she could do the upper echelon, Miss Money in the Bank. So I think the match worked out the way it had to. 14 minutes, it would have been too long had they not really picked up the pace and really found each other. You know, they had a steep learning curve for this one, so I was glad they gave them. By the time this match was over, I was glad they gave them 14 minutes because it let them feel each other out and really give us a real good for TV match last 5 minutes. But
Yeah,
early on, it was like, oh my goodness, how long is this going to last?
I agree. It was like a pot of water that starts boiling.
Yep,
Like it takes a little bit for that pot of water to boil, and
good
then
image.
toward the end, which I guess it's better to finish strong rather than open oddly. But also maybe like Bailey talking and seeing what Bailey's going to do, kind of it's like an extra distraction, so that takes away from the match a little bit. But
Mhm.
one thing I did want to talk about was the Shotzi promo. I
Okay.
noticed a tick tock in the background. Like the sound effect in the back, it's like tick tock, tick tock. Like they're kind of doing the same thing that they were doing with boy, what's his name?
Karrion
Aaron Cross.
Cross and Scarlett. Oh no, everybody's doing TikTok.
Yeah, so I heard the TikTok and I'm like, I hope this doesn't steer anywhere close to Karrion Cross or Bray Wyatt. Like, just keep the character real. Like, she's kind of crazy. She shaved her head, but she doesn't have to be like flipping over tarot cards or hosting children's shows or don't make it too complicated.
Combine all of them together, make it the Firefly Clock Shop.
Don't yes.
They're
Don't
all just weird. They have puppets and they say TikTok.
yeah, so let's not ruin
And
it.
then nobody wrestles.
And nobody ever wrestles. It just these horrible vignettes. All right. So let's move on to the next match here. We have Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory. Escobar actually goes over Austin Theory in this match.
Does.
Not a title match, but he beats the champ. Dom, what did you think about this match?
Not bad pacing. The two of them size wise fit. I don't know how much familiarity they have with each other or what their history is, but it looks like they kind of work together pretty well. Um, I do like one spot in the match where Santos teased he was going to do a dive to go to the first commercial, but Austin Theory kind of saw it and stepped out of the way toward the rail, so Santos wound up not diving. I was like, oh, good. They went to commercial anyway, but they didn't do it with a dive. Um, it Santos does get the again. They love their Hurricane Ranas. Santos executes a top turnbuckle Hurricane Rana, then a running knee into the corner, then turns it into a Phantom Driver. So we got the three moves to do there. For a
Mhm.
pinfall, took about 11 minutes. So they gave him some time. They let him go. Um, I don't know that this is good news for Austin Theory.
No.
He gets right. I not to cut you off too much, but I just want to say how bad the news could be. He gets downgraded on the commentary team, punked out, now beat by a guy who may or may not win the contendership. So I don't think this wasn't a good look for Austin Theory on several fronts.
I don't know. He has not performed that well or as high. I mean, he's filling in for Gunter, so you're like, oh, here's the great worker that'll fill in for Gunter. He hasn't really connected too much, and he's very young,
Mm-hmm.
so he's still got a lot to learn, and he's young. So I wouldn't be like, oh, he can't wrestle, he's done. Like he does really cool bumps, and maybe there's something I'm missing, and maybe there's a place for him at some point. But like he bumps really well. It's just there's something with the personality and what he is right now. He just doesn't fit a heel, and he's not a good heel. And I feel like a heel is you want the heels to be fire because they're the ones that can have that creative energy where they can utilize their charisma. But he doesn't have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
charisma. So there's where I'm at with Austin Theory. He does cool bumps throughout the whole match, but I'm not feeling him. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some sort of thing that happens down the road and he has a good match, but I don't know. Not so.
He works fairly well, right? And he has a look to him. But for being a title holder with that much gravitas, it looks like the U.S. belt. Maybe this is the men's title that can switch hands more often. Roman's had the belt forever. They're trying to give Gunther a very formidable title reign. Seth Rollins, it's a new belt. He needs to keep it at least for a couple months, maybe 2, 3 months to reestablish that it's a real prize. the U.S. belt, especially at this time, Theory's had it for several months, dating back to last year. This is the belt where if you're going to switch a belt, it smells like this is the one, right?
Yeah, and it would be one of these things where if they had LA Knight feud with Austin Theory, it feels like that's what he needs is someone that's over, and he could play heel to the person that's over, like LA Knight versus. It felt like a really good fit, but that's not the way they went. They're just going to keep holding off on it. So, is Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory? Is that going to be like a match that's going to be crazy at SummerSlam? I don't know, but we'll have to see. One more match tonight. We're at the 30-minute mark here. So Dom Mysterio versus Butch. So Dominic Mysterio, because you're Dom, so let's not mix up the two. Dominic Mysterio goes over Butch in a North American. Is that the NXT title that's defended?
The NXT North American Championship. Yeah, it's about a 9-minute match, shortest one of the night. Decent action. What did you think of not only the winner of this match, but how it played out?
Butch always makes the most of his minutes, and I'm glad to see him get a singles match. I think that him and Dom actually work pretty well together, but they made it relatively fast, this match. It feels like it's promo for NXT, and we also have so many titles floating around. I'm not sure I need a secondary men's title, another secondary men's title being in the picture, because that'd be U.S. title, Intercontinental title, Seth Rollins Participation Trophy Championship. So now a fourth title just for men's singles? Like, no, that's not. We're getting too many titles.
Well, Dominic Mysterio wins it going down to NXT to win the belt, and this is a title defense here. Rhea Ripley's out there with him. They throw it. This was the match. It was the shortest match of the night. It had the most extracurricular stuff going on.
Okay.
Rhea's got a chain. She tries to hand to Dominic while the ref is distracted, but Ridge Hollins runs down to get the chain away from Dominic. And then, that allows Butch to get an advantage at a 2 count going to the commercial. We come back from commercial. Here comes Pretty Deadly with Elton Prince in a wheelchair because he hurt his shoulder. Whatever. The shoulder injury apparently is legit. He did some good work in injuring his shoulder during a match and finishing the match. But like they're playing it up that, now Elton Prince is hurt, so they wheel him out in a wheelchair because they're heels. Now they are out there to distract Ridge Holland. Ridge and Butch wind up chasing Kit out, and then there's poor Elton Prince sitting there in the wheelchair. Eventually, they scare him, and he gets up and runs away because, hey, it's not his legs that were injured. So they're doing kind of a comedy spot there. It tells me that they're kind of high on Pretty Deadly, that even with Elton Prince legit injured and not able to do anything this week that's real physical, they still wanted to get them on TV in some sort of spot and get some sort of heat, even if it was, semi-comedy heat. So I like that aspect of it. Eventually, Rhea chop blocks Butch's knee on the ring apron, leading to Dominic pinning Butch at around the 9-minute mark. So some of the interference winds up playing a role in the finish here. I don't know. Seemed like a good way to get the NXT belt on SmackDown and maybe get some people from SmackDown tuning into NXT. It's always good to see Dom and Rhea. They perform very well. Dominic Mysterio has been pretty good in the ring. So they're entertaining. I don't mind them on TV. There were a ton of people involved in this. I mean, it was like the smorgasbord there. A lot of people had to get on TV, I guess.
Dirty right. Dominic Mysterio wins, and I'm a big fan. Ever since his WrestleMania entrance, that was like through the roof. That made me laugh out loud so much. when they bring him in as a
Yep.
prisoner. So I guess if they're going to give him a title and he's going to be real chickeny, let's go for it.
Sure.
So Dom, that's all we have for the show as far as the follow. So let's move on to the next segment, Thumb Drive. Thumb Drive is where we give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to this Friday's Smackdown. All right, Dom, are you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, you gave it a
Oh,
down. What made it down for you?
all right. This was much like last week's SmackDown. I was so close. I was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the reason I went down is I don't get what they're doing with LA Knight. And
Okay.
I'm a little perplexed and disappointed. And then in addition to that, it felt like a lot of throwaway stuff that just kind of was building storyline. So as a result, I was thinking thumbs up. I was thinking thumbs up, and I'm looking at my notes, and I was like, man, I was pressing fast forward like crazy through some of this stuff. I was like, all
Okay.
right, okay. Like you talk about the Dom Butch match. There was so much shenanigans, and then the Io Sky Charlotte Flair match. This is just like a throwaway match that they were doing like this big segment, basically to get the Bailey Shotzi program going. So I don't know. It just feels like kind of a repeat of last week in a certain way with the storylines. And, I was a little salty about LA Knight, so I gave it a thumbs down.
That's I guess twice that we've done this now out of 3 times. Has it been LA Knights been kind of your bubble team?
Right.
Like as LA Knight goes, so goes the thumb.
Well, hey, listen, I did the cornet. I gave the thumbs down. You're giving the I guess Jim Ross always seems to be pretty positive. So you're giving the thumbs up here.
I'm giving it the thumbs up because I think we got a lot of in-ring wrestling. We got pretty clean finishes too. So it wasn't like you watched a decent match and then you went, oh, it's just a garbage finish.
Yeah.
Except for the NXT North American Championship match, everything was a clean finish. I thought it was above average in ring action for what we usually get on TV, and we got a lot of it. I didn't see a lot of filler on this show. I'm with you that the Fatal 4-Way. I wonder what they're doing with LA Knight, but I'm trying to be good and not judge the show based on whether they do how I would have booked.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to take it for what it was. Was this a great SmackDown? No. The matches almost kind of went in descending order as you went through the show. So it's like they were. It wasn't a build up as you get to the last quarter. It was almost a deterioration of it. But overall, I think for these 2 hours we got some good wrestling, and I do like the end with the tribal combat. Jay's impressive. Roman's on your screen, and Jay's impressive.
There you go. So, Dom, you're giving it a thumbs up. I gave it a thumbs down. People that are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
We have anybody
Twitch.
on Twitch tonight? There we go.
People on Twitch. Let us know in the chat. Hit us up. Thumbs up or thumbs down for the last Friday's SmackDown. Because we want to hear from you folks. Dom, let's move on to our next segment here. So we gave we're split. 1 thumbs down for me, 1 thumbs up for Dom. So moving on to
we did it like rock, paper, scissors there, where we both showed at the same time.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Yeah. So we're gonna move on here to the cheap heat. I'll tell you what, we had some cheap heat blow up on YouTube. We did a segment about MJF and Logan Paul and kayfabe.
Yep.
Whether that was, basically a conversation about kayfabe with Logan Paul and MJF. And that went to the moon. As far as our YouTube videos are concerned, we're at like 260 views, and I released a video on Thursday, and the views keep coming. So cheap heat, brother. We're going to keep it up. Dom?
Well, we don't bury the lead. Let's not bury the lead for cheap heat either. I'll give you a choice here. I think maybe the two biggest cheap heats I've found are either we got some WrestleNomics on the ratings here, or we do have something about Logan Paul and SummerSlam. Which one do you like?
Well, Logan Paul is our golden goose right now. So how's about we talk about Logan Paul?
We could talk about Logan Paul. He wants the opening match on SummerSlam. Most people want to be in the main event. He apparently is going to face. Let's see here. He's going to face. He's going to face Ricochet at SummerSlam. Interesting reason, according to this article from the USA Network here that I've got. He wants to be able to fly to Dallas immediately after his SummerSlam match because his brother Jake Paul is fighting ex-MMA star Nate Diaz in a professional boxing match the same night as SummerSlam. So, hey there, that's maybe a reason to want to be on the opening match. But on the other hand, the opening match, you got to have a good opener, right? You can't start a pay-per-view lousy. You got to start a pay-per-view you got to start something hot. Like WrestleMania started with John Cena and Austin Theory.
Yeah, Dom, do you want to show the article here?
We could show the article. I've got it there from the USA Network here. Just so you know where we're getting it from. This came out Wednesday. Logan Paul, you can say here, as it turns out, Paul will try to make the best impression of a mid-90s family sitcom character trying to be in two places at once. August 5th, same evening as SummerSlam. There it is. He's got to get to Dallas. So he's trying to go Detroit to Dallas, and he wants to have his match first, and then get on out to see his brother. What do you think of this here? I mean, I could go one of two ways with Logan Paul here. I could say, oh man, he once again isn't taking this seriously, or I could give the guy props for saying, look, we want to put on a fast-paced, entertaining match that we think can get people going. Yeah, we'll go on first.
From my perspective, if he has to go to a family thing and get there, then he can get there. But if he's not going to be at the fight, then he can watch it on TV. And right. It's not like, and I mean, it's Jake Paul in a goofy match. This isn't like your child's state championship match, and you don't want to miss out on your kid's thing, so you have to go to it. It's his brother. Watch it on TV and hang out with the boys in the back after SummerSlam. Like, that's usually what people do. But he's breaking a lot of rules. So, I mean, you would talk about a locker room thing. Yeah, everyone needs to hang around for everybody else's matches. You don't just leave because you want to see how they did. You want to, cheer them on. You want to, you hang around the back. So I guess.
Is he booked to interfere in the boxing match? Is that what he has to do? He's got to come out there and, pull Nate Diaz's foot as he's near the ropes or something? Is there going to be a run-in at the boxing match?
The only thing I can think of is if he leaves and then he makes it to the fight in time, then he could be on the side and they would be like, oh, he came from Smackdown. But I don't even know that the people running the fight, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, turn off this pay-per-view, watch SmackDown or watch
SummerSlam, watch the boxing match, yeah.
Or even, they're competing directly with this fight. So even then, WWE doesn't want to make any big thing that he's got to go to this fight and turn off SummerSlam.
Correct. I don't believe this is let's see here. It was a July 18th episode of his Impulsive podcast. This is obviously not something that WWE is pressing. This is, again, Logan Paul has his own brand.
Oh, yeah.
Logan Paul is his own guy. This is him, and this is what WWE has to put up with Logan Paul. This is not a good look for the WWE, but that's Logan Paul. I don't know. Does it take some of the luster off of SummerSlam to hear Logan Paul do this?
I don't know. This is the guy. This is it's the guy there. And it's funny. Speaking of cheap heat, I have one myself here.
There you go.
So I have heard L.A. Knight has some issues backstage, and that's why he's not getting a push. Now these are just rumors that he has had issues backstage, and as a result, they're trying to make sure that these issues are resolved or whatever it is. So they're slowing his push a little bit. Completely ridiculous if he hasn't done anything too bad, considering what other people do in the back. You got Vince McMahon paying money to have sex with employees. But, like, what's his name? L.A. Knight. Oh, yeah. Like, he was mean to somebody 3 years ago. Like, give me a break.
It's the stuff from back when he was on NXT or something and didn't get a push.
Yeah. He didn't get along with the person that was running NXT at the time. So I'm sure Triple H was cool with that person, and I don't know. Whatever. I hope that's not the cheap heat. I hope that's not a real thing. I hope that's a rumor. But if we're talking cheap heat, we're talking rumor. So LA Knight not getting a push because of backstage issues.
Vince buried the hatchet with Cody Rhodes. I mean, get over it and do business. He buried the hatchet with Eric Bischoff several times. Yeah, the Vince
Bret Hart.
Right. I mean, the Vince way of doing things is bury the hatchet if it's good for business. LA Knight could be good for business. What's with? I mean, if this really is still lingering from years ago when he was in developmental, after he left and had a decent career in other promotions, I don't know why that's such a big deal. My goodness.
Yeah. So we got Logan Paul we talked about. We got L.A. Knight we talked about. Any more cheap heat here, Dom?
This was the highest rated Smackdown ever on FS1.
Interesting.
By a significant margin.
Interesting. Do you think
it was up almost a little more than 30%? It was up more than 30% from the last time it had to air on FS1, which might have been they say it was in December when that happened. But they drew 1.2 million viewers according to WrestleNomics. WrestleNomics tabulates this stuff and does a pretty good job of it. Let's see there. They put out a pretty good tweet on it. They also kind of, for comparison purposes, put AEW Rampage there. I mean, it was a slightly different time slot, but FS1 tripled Rampage on Friday night. About 1.23 million to 415,000 or so. The key demographic, the 18 to 49, SmackDown drew a 0.36, Rampage did a 0.11. So this is about half the viewership that SmackDown gets when they're on the regular Fox network. But still, that's an impressive number on FS1. The Bloodline is over. The Roman Reigns hype worked. This was good business for FS1.
I wonder if the reason that it did so well is because there wasn't any real competition. And I say that there was Women's World Cup. But the Women's World Cup was just them smashing Vietnam. Okay. So it was like 2-0 right away. That didn't start till 9, so probably like 9:15. Who knows if it started a little bit later. And it was just projected to be a blowout. So maybe they just were like, oh, there's not like NFL football or MLB playoffs. It's women's soccer. And people that are going to be watching women's soccer wouldn't usually be watching pro wrestling. So maybe that's like the way they were able to maintain a strong series of ratings.
Well, it does seem that according to the extra information that WrestleNomics has here, WWE Smackdown is doing well. Their ratings are pretty much up, and a lot of that is Bloodline. Just the overall product's been pretty good television,
No, yeah, we watch it. It's good. We've been giving a lot of thumbs up.
And even when it's a thumbs down, it's because they're just screwing over LA Knight. So.
When it's a thumbs down, I'm just pissed off about LA Knight.
So it's been good TV. It's been good business. I like it. Two more real lightning round here. Do you remember Eric Young? He was supposedly developmental with the WWE. He asked for his release when he heard that Vince McMahon was coming back. They granted it to him. He was back on Impact Wrestling. He returned for their Slammiversary pay-per-view maybe a week or so ago. But this was somebody who did not want to work with Vince. EY, Eric Young, had a long career. He's been a comedy wrestler. He's been a serious wrestler. He's great in the ring. He has a good character. He's had a long career, but he's never been upper echelon WWE or even like upper echelon AEW. I guess he had his options and it wasn't worth it to him. Maybe he thought that, he'd get buried as just a comedy guy with Vince back. Maybe that was the kind of thing that he was worried about earlier, So here's a guy who came to WWE in November 2022 when he thought Vince was out of the picture. And, not everybody likes Vince. Let's just, leave it at that. And my other lightning round is, do you remember Nick Aldis?
Yes.
Nick Aldis, NWA champ for a long time. He had that great feud with Cody Rhodes over the 10 pounds of gold shortly after Cody left WWE. And it was that program that really put Cody Rhodes on the map as a guy who could carry a promotion as a top star.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that led to really the formation of AEW, and it led to Cody being very hot when he came back to WWE. Nick Aldis is now a free agent. WWE is interested in him as a producer, though, not as an in-ring talent. I don't think Nick Aldis is that old. I think he can still go in the ring. He looks like he's still in shape. But maybe it's his call that he'd rather transition to the office, maybe like Adam Pearce did. I mean, Adam Pearce was still young enough to get in the ring and mix it up when he became kind of an on-screen character as an office guy and not really an in-ring guy for WWE. Maybe Nick Aldis is going the same way. So Eric Young, Nick Aldis, some WWE contract news here for different reasons and different directions. But I wonder if any of our viewers know of these guys. If you're watching now, if you're live, or if you're watching on a recording, tell us if you know something about Nick Aldis. Do you want to see him in the WWE? Do you know something about EY Eric Young? Are you disappointed that he felt he could not stick around WWE?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Nick Aldis, he looks like I don't know if I'm not sure if he had a run in WWE or not, or if he just was NWA. I'm seeing Global Force, a lot of different stuff. Weird he'd come in as a producer, but maybe his connections with Cody, and he's like, oh yeah, this guy's good because he got me. He's 36.
He's not old at all. He started young. He looks great. He talks great. He carries himself like a good heel champion should, or at least he did with the NWA belt. Yeah. He's not over the hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It says he's interested in both WWE and AEW. I guess whichever one would let him wrestle. I don't know. Honest to God, I don't really know what producers do and what their importance is, but it just seems like when you're done wrestling and they give you like this little kind of a cake job where you go and you produce, you're an agent for a match and you kind of put the matches together. And, they seem to be, they get like moved around a lot. They're part of the creative teams. They're getting yelled at by Vince constantly. You're like directly connected to Vince. So, anyways, yeah, interesting stuff. Any other cheap heat, Dom? I think you said you have one more.
No, that's what I got. Two ones that took a little longer, and then just a couple of guys with contract news.
All right. So we're heading on down to the finish of the show, and we call this our Italian goodbye.
How is SummerSlam shaping up for you? How is SummerSlam? You know,
There we go.
how is the card for SummerSlam shaping up for you at this point? We're less than 2 weeks out now.
I think it's pretty good. We at least have a really good main event with Jey Uso and
Mm-hmm.
Roman Reigns. I like that it's in Detroit, and I like that it's on because they always do these like warm weather, soft little cities like Los Angeles or like San Francisco, and like really nice part or like California places, or Orlando. I'm had one before. They're going to Detroit. We're going to the middle of the country. We're going to a poor city that's kind of making its way back, and we're doing a tough guy pay-per-view location.
This is not a beach locale or a resort
No,
backdrop here. We're going to the mean streets of Detroit for
the
this
mean streets of Detroit. Exactly. Yeah. This there's a lot of crime there.
one.
So I like where they're headed with it, and I like the main event. And let's see here. Well, Gunter will be there, and we don't get to see Gunter anymore, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. Still miss him. Hoping LA Knight's on the show in some capacity, but it doesn't look
Right?
like it's going to be that way. But how about you? What do you think of the card?
I like the main event that we're going to see Roman Reigns put the belt on the line. It's been several pay-per-views since we've seen that,
Yeah.
all the way back at WrestleMania. So I like that. I think he and Jay they should know each other and should trust each other enough that they could put on a great match. So I want to see them have a match that's very, very memorable. As far as the rest of the card, I'm intrigued by Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey. I want to see if this is really Ronda's swan song. If wrestling Shayna Baszler, who she's comfortable with, allows Ronda to give the showing of herself in the wrestling ring that we've seen too infrequently during her wrestling time. Ricochet Logan Paul could be fun. I hope they don't rush it because Logan Paul's got to go down to Dallas and interfere in his brother's boxing match. Other than that, I mean, the card seems to be still in flux. It looks like there's a triple threat for Asuka's women's title between
Yeah.
Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair at this point. If Io Sky's probably going to be lurking around with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I wonder if Shotzi Bailey is set for SummerSlam. So the card's kind of coming together, but
I do have to give credit to Logan Paul for wanting to work with Ricochet because he could pick out another guy that's going to be really like he worked with Seth Rollins, like no shit, that was easy, and he looked good. And he worked with Roman Reigns. It's like like anybody who wrestles, it's like insane. So he's picking a guy that's been pretty good, but just a mid carder that's been kind of floating around here. So he's using his star power to get him, maybe a little bit more exposure. So I do like that aspect of it.
it's good for Ricochet, but Logan Paul needs a win.
I think he's getting one.
Poor Rick, and Ricochet's that guy. Ricochet's the guy who looks strong while making other people look strong.
He is,
Logan Paul desperately needs a singles win.
you know,
Hey Ricochet, what are you doing August 5th?
hey
Trying
man,
not to botch a Spanish fly with the new guy? I don't know. What do you tell me what I'm doing August 5th?
he's a great worker and he's a very willing worker for sure. I think there's an old quote. It's Dusty Rhodes. He said, "Kid, don't get too good at jobbing, kid." And I think the thing is with Ricochet, he got too good at jobbing. So like they're like, "Have we got the guy for you, Logan Paul? This guy's great with everybody." And like it's gonna be good to get Ricochet a rub, but we all know how this story is gonna end. All right, Dom, we're doing the Italian goodbye here. Going to talk here a little bit about the channel. Next show, we will be celebrating. We hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. So give yourself a hand, Tom. Come on.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, subscribers. Those of you watching us, and those of you who took the time to subscribe and maybe get some notification from us. Tell us, chime in more. Some of you are doing that. You're either dropping in on live streams or commenting on things. We'd like to hear from more of you. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Give us your takes on some of the hot button topics that we're talking about. The more the merrier.
Right.
It's a fun ride so far, and I hope we keep trending upward.
Yes, we certainly are trending up, literally, because we're getting more subscribers and more viewers. So thanks so much for that. And I think this is it for the rest of the show here. Dom,
if you haven't subscribed yet, help us work on the next 100.
Yes, who wants to be 101? It could be you. Dom, thank you so much for joining as always. We'll be back here Friday night, back in the saddle, reviewing the next WWE Smackdown after the bell. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your evening.